friends. We are live, live, live. Super Bowl partner. Neck strengthening using this cervical orthosis, the Denarol, in a lot of different ways. So when we're talking about the neck, it has a lot to do, because we've been focusing on the feet and the hip hinging. And one of the things I've noticed is some of us are getting really good with the hip hinge, but we're rounding like we went over with you today.
You told me I was doing it wrong several times, and then that was it. I was
Then you clicked.
And you know what? It's a lot harder when you don't keep your shoulders.
So some of that issue comes from here, is this too much rounding. So this rhomboid area, these muscles that pull the shoulders in external rotation, are usually generally really weak. So we're activating those, but we're also fighting against these upper trap muscles, which tend to pull our head into extension. So we're engaging these, engaging the rhomboids, fighting against the pectorals, while maintaining the hip hinge. A lot of you notice that it's easy to get the neck, but then, the low back's out. Getting them both together at the same time is tough, and it's going to make the exercise really more beneficial. But we're going to go over how to use this guy. So we're going to, upper traps attach kind of here. You got other muscles here that we're going to be hit. So that's where we're going to have this wedge when I'm laying down. So I'm getting on my back. And you can, it's a broad area, kind of work your way there. And you notice your head will hang down. So this is neck extension. So we can activate a lot of different things, but right now we'll just focus on the neck. I'm pulling my head out of extension. A lot of us kind of round into this. Make sure you really get lengthened. So I'm pulling my head up just about an inch off the table. This works best on the ground. It's not going to work good in your bed because you're going to kind of round in the bed. The wedge will help. But we're keeping the core tight, same as when we're doing the founder, turning the hips in. Now you do this for about a minute, you'll start shaking. You can see I'm already starting to shake because I'm just really good at decompressing, that I can make the exercise harder. If I'm just kind of lazy, you're not going to feel it as much. If I really engage, I'm going to feel a lot of pressure in my jaw, in my skull. And we're focused on deep breathing while we're here. So Dr. Goodman talks about what's called the supine founder, which is essentially just laying on your back, doing the founder. So he's bringing his big toes in, turning the hips in, squeezing the inner thigh, engaging, pulling the arms together, creating that sphere of tension he does, same with the standing. So instead of hinging at my hips, I'm just going to raise the arms here, which is really going to add a lot of that fulcrum, that cervical orthosis that we're using. And this really brings about a lot of tension in the head. If you have trouble engaging the shoulders, think about just pulling here, doing this to set. You'll feel this. That's going to push those into the socket, externally rotate, keep that tension, and then add it. That makes sense, guys? We're going to practice in a second. Once you feel it, that'll really help. You could usually just be on the ground on a yoga mat is good. You can also use this like a foam roller. So I had about here. So you're kind of hooking that spinous. And then you can move here. Usually T1, T2, T3 are all pretty jammed up. So we're unlocking those areas, helping to squeeze these shoulders into the socket. Focus on the hips, but not too much. Think mostly about the neck. So one way to stretch now, we just talked about strengthening. Same idea. Maybe I'll move it a little bit lower. Around T2 area is the same thing. You're stretching here and just pulling that head up over the fulcrum. Hear that little crunch? So you can use it just like you would yanking hard on my head. I just was really lengthened here, and that's going to open up the joint. And then after you get it to move, but then I feel worse in 10 minutes because I didn't strengthen then after. So we're getting that joint into place, and then we're strengthening the muscles around it to stabilize it. Spinal stability. So then if I wanted to move to another, just move up a little bit, hit the next bone, stretch. You'll feel it like, okay, I'm not as locked there, so that joint maybe doesn't need as much, so I don't need to have to spend as much time there. And most of us won't need it much here. We'll see a lot of rounding here, but usually this muscle's so weak we don't want to put extra pressure into that rhomboid muscle because it's overstretched. It might even feel like it's painful and knotty, like it's got little trigger points in there. Avoid it. You're activating it, you're correcting it by using it. So here is good. Another good area to use this is down here. This is the area most of us are in extension. So all that weight's kind of shifted that way. So that's pinching right there. A lot of us think, oh, that's great because I'm opening up. But that's jamming your spine down. When we get hips underneath us, we know, so we lift up that area and we sometimes feel a stretch. A lot of us, and especially bodybuilders, have big, strong, but then they pull us into this position. So we're losing that engagement here in the hip flexor, but also the diaphragm. Diaphragm's right in here, that's the breathing area. So if that's not engaged, you're not going to be able to get good breaths. You're breathing from your chest. Sorry, probably everyone heard the nice mic smack. So we're breathing from the diaphragm instead of the chest. So I'll show you down here. It's the same idea. Almost as if you would on a foam roller too. You can just lay there. This also works really well in the car, right in this area. So right below where the rhomboids would be, resting there. Doing that same exercise, still pulling my head up. I just feel a lot more tension in those erector muscles now. So you can strengthen, and you can go and stretch over that area too if you wanted to. And that works really well in the car, just like this. Because most of us, our hips are forward, our legs are out, which is good because we're stretching the hamstrings, but then we're back here. So it's a lot of rounding, not so much engagement. So that wedge is going to push us into this position, help open up this area. So you just got it right here. And you can even do that in your work chair. That works. As I hear all the time, oh, I'm driving all the time. I can't strengthen my spine. Of course you can. It's a great time to. Your legs are already out. So it's going to stretch the hamstrings. You can engage the hip flexors. You can do it without the wedge. But also you have the advantage of being able to put this up here, which you can't do in a normal chair. So you can get some movement here as well. So you're breaking up adhesions, and you're spending some time strengthening, then you can be lazy again, especially if you've got a long car ride. So those are two really great ways to strengthen the neck. The other one to how we feel that, we kind of went over this earlier, is when he opens his arms like this, if his elbow works, he's going to push that into the socket. So the ear, shoulder. So everyone do that. Really lengthened. Arms are down. So I'm thinking about my hips and shoulder are in a line. We're thinking about that, but now we're thinking about bringing our wrists and our elbows into that same plane with our ears. So see if you can do this now. Bringing that into that position. That should be hard. It's easy if I do that, right? If I throw those hips forward, where we're keeping those hips engaged. So if you don't feel too much tension, you're like, what? Make it hard. So lengthened, pulling the shoulders down. Here you should feel a good bit of tension. It should almost feel hard to get those in, right? Keeping those palms forward. And then trying to get to the back of your head, the occiput area. And then opening. We're not really hinging, we're just staying lengthened. So you're right now, you're seeing me out of breath and shaking, and you're like, how do I get that much tension? It'll come. The stronger your spine gets, the more I can be able to put those into the sockets. I see the shaking, that's good. But that just shows you how you can just make little movements harder to help your posture. One way to think about this is you're doing a seated overhead press. A lot of people are leaning back when they're doing it, and they're stronger. They can lift a lot of weight here when they're rounded. The more you engage, get yourself on the hips, almost like you'd be in your car with your legs out. You'll notice just here, I feel a lot of stretch. So even with a light weight, even with no weight, I can feel this really engaging, pressing up, because my chest is broad. Where here I'm caved in, I'm rounded, I could probably lift a ton of weight. I'm pretty weak, I'm pretty scrawny. So I can lift a lot more weight than if I could if I'm here. And that's okay if you're trying to build up, and I don't think any of you are going for bodybuilding competitions, but that's okay. But you want to throw in a set of good form. And it's not that this is so bad form. They would even say that's fine. That's how you're supposed to be. That's why there's that seat back there. Pull yourself away from the seat. Pretend you're in the car. And don't do this in the car. Lifting up, engaging. That making sense? Because then we're stacking. We're actually reversing the stack. Because most of us, our hips are forward. Now we're switching it on its head. We're putting our shoulders out in front of our hips. And that's going to make it even harder. Not to the point where we're in the old man posture, because that's going to happen in life if we don't correct this problem. Because we're here, we're destroying the SI joints. All of a sudden, and it happens fast. People are like, I'm never going to be stooped over like that. As soon as those joints are degenerated, we switch here. So now we're in flexion. So we've gone from this to this. And what we tend to teach in physical therapy is, oh, you're like that, we should do this. And that can get you out of pain, but the only true correction is lengthening. Activating that posterior chain, enabling that hinge at the hips, which engages your feet. And that's really going to help your neck. It's this stuff on the day-to-day. So we're going to practice now. That's all you guys get, because you should be here. So grab a table.